What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, joining you guys on this special Victory Monday. Now, of course, the Giants did lose yesterday, but in the eyes of many, this was a Victory Monday because this loss put the Giants ahead in the race for the number one overall pick. Now the Giants currently hold pick number 2. But they leapfrogged a lot of other quarterback-needy teams, so if you're looking ahead to a quarterback, which is what we're doing in today's episode, yesterday's loss ultimately might be a win. It might be similar to last year's Patriots game that the Giants won on a late field goal, but ultimately it caused the Patriots to jump them in draft positioning. The Giants lost out on Drake May due to that game. So this year's game versus the Panthers might have a similar story, except the Giants came out on the losing end of the matchup, which could ultimately make them winners in April's 2025 NFL Draft. But that's all to say, or to ask rather, which quarterback are the Giants taking? Now, obviously you guys know who we like. I'm Mr. Crash for Cam. I like Cam Ward. That's who I'm hoping to see in Big Blue next year. But there are a couple other options. Jalen Milroe is actually the number one quarterback ranked on Pro Football Focus's big board right now. He just had a 4 rushing touchdown performance this past weekend. He is an absolute elite dual threat. Maybe not the most polished passer, but there is sure a lot of upside with Jalen Milroe, and his elite rushing abilities make him an exciting talent. Now, Cam Ward, he has a lot of different skills in his skill set. He's more of a poise in the pocket, under pressure kind of passer with a big arm who can make plays off script, but holds the ball a long time, and he sometimes has questionable decision making. Then there's guys like Garrett Nussmeier who will go later in the draft. A lot of anticipation, some pro throws, but a lot of other question marks. And Shadur Sanders, of course, big headline-grabbing name, coming from a Hall of Fame bloodline, but question marks for him, whether you want to ask about his leadership or his ability to make plays out of the pocket. There's a lot of question marks for all of these quarterbacks. None of them necessarily have the pedigree that the top quarterbacks in last year's draft class have, but I'm going to make this argument right now because I've seen this a couple times in the comment section before I hand it off to you, Alex. A lot of Giants fans say don't take a quarterback this year. It's a bad quarterback class. Yeah, but you're comparing this quarterback class to last year's quarterback class, which was like a historically good quarterback class. It's not necessarily a fair comparison. And sometimes in bad quarterback classes, you find a gem. I'm going to actually take a page out of the New York Jets here. The New York Jets in 2017 needed a quarterback. They did not draft a quarterback. They said, this is a bad quarterback class. We're going to wait for 2018. In 2017, they didn't take a quarterback. 2018, they took Sam Darnold, who did not pan out. In that quarterback class, only Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson were the first-round quarterbacks who panned out for the teams that drafted them in 2018. In 2017, had the Jets decided, okay, we will draft a quarterback, who could they have gotten? Well, Deshaun Watson didn't pan out necessarily. Mitchell Trubisky didn't pan out. But Patrick Mahomes sure as shit did. So, you never know. That's why you take the chance on the quarterback. You can't wait. When you've got the opportunity, you got to take the opportunity. I think the New York Jets proved that. They could have taken a quarterback in 2017. They punted on it, banking on a better quarterback class. They still didn't land the quarterback that they were hoping for in 2018 anyway. All these years later, they keep just kicking the can down the road. Still don't have a quarterback, even with 45-year-old Aaron Rodgers trying to sling the rock and being unsuccessful. So that's going to be my lesson that I open this episode up with, Alex. I think that Giants fans get caught up a lot when they say, oh, this is a bad quarterback class. It can be a bad class. There can be bad prospects. But if you land the one guy who comes out of this class and ends up having a successful career, it doesn't matter how good or how bad the quarterback class was. And you know what? At the end of the day, in 2018, second lesson of this story, the Arizona Cardinals were like, historically good quarterback class. Let's go ahead and take Josh Rosen in the first round. Absolute disaster. Moved on from him after 1 year. And then in a really bad quarterback class, the same one as Daniel Jones, they took Kyler Murray with the number 1 overall pick, and he is still their franchise quarterback from a bad quarterback class. So again, you just never know. You can't bank on the strength of a quarterback class. That's going to be my opening statement for today's episode. But Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? How are you feeling coming off of the Giants' loss, which feels more like a win if you're looking at the draft positioning? And now that the Giants hold the number 2 overall pick, who are you locking onto?
Well, yeah, guys, am I doing well today? I'm doing better than I was yesterday. You sit here right now and you wonder yourself, what is the Giants' future? And the clear and obvious answer is nobody really knows. You heard Ian Rappaport on the Pat McAfee show say today that he doesn't really get the sense that anyone in New York is safe right now, whether it's Brian Dable or Joe Shane. So any reports that, John Mara is saying, oh, like these guys are safe, like take it with a grain of salt. He said the same thing in 2017, ended up firing Ben McAdoo just a couple weeks after that. So I do think that they will ultimately keep the pairing. I do think they want to see what they can do with a young rookie quarterback. But that begs the question, which young rookie quarterback? The Giants currently have the number 2 overall pick in the draft, according to Tankathon. We have 2 games that will decide where we end up drafting coming up over the next 3 weeks following the bye. It is the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and it's the Saints, 2 really, really bad football teams. I know we played the Buccaneers before then, so we have the Buccaneers, then the Cowboys, and then the Saints. Bucs are gonna destroy us most likely. Baker Mayfield's playing at an astronomically higher level than anyone we've seen at quarterback. With the Giants over the last 6 years. So I think we'll probably lose that game quite handily. I do think that the Cowboys have a very interesting situation going on, but the Giants can't score many points, and their defense is already laid down to die. Like, the effort's gone. We are not competing. The Philadelphia Eagles are a much better team than the Giants right now, and when all is said and done, like, our defense is just they just don't look like they're putting in the effort. It's not there. Some players, yes, but like they ran all over us yesterday, let's be honest. I think that when you're looking to the next year's quarterback class, yeah, is it weaker than last year's? For sure, from a prospect perspective. But I will say this, there's always 1 or 2 gems that emerged, even in a weak quarterback class. I mean, think about the Sam Darnold class and the Josh Rosen class. Like, everyone thought those were like unbelievable prospects, can't miss. Not a single one hit. Baker was the only one that seemingly was able to find his way into a much better situation. Sam Donald's been good this year, but it might just be an anomaly among a large sample of really, really bad performance from him. So, looking at what the Giants are staring at in next year's class, yeah, it doesn't look good on paper from a prospect perspective, but Cam Ward has all the tools. A lot of people, why do you like Cam Ward? Let me tell you something. There is not a single quarterback that comes out of college that doesn't need development. Cam Ward has an absolute laser beam of an arm. He can move, at least at a competent level. His pocket presence is elite. Yes, he sometimes tries to play hero ball and do crazy things, but we see other quarterbacks in the NFL do that at a very high level all the time. Josh Allen is a hero ball quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is a hero ball quarterback. Of course, they are doing it at the highest level possible. But what I like that Cam Ward has is he has the capacity to make things happen when plays break down. You don't find quarterbacks that can do that every day. Now, the question is, can a coach like Brian Dable find a way to make sure that his hero ball is effective and efficient? That is a totally different strategy than just having him go out there, run around, and try to find a receiver. It's about how you go about operating when a play falls apart. And I think Cam Ward has a long way to go to develop in that respect, but he has the instincts and the tools to be very effective after a play falls apart. And I think that that's something, an actual strength. Like, people are like, oh, well, he runs around and does all these crazy things and tries to find ways. That's a good thing, guys. That means he's able to escape pressure, find time, buy time, let his receivers get open. That is a positive. Stop acting as if that's a fucking negative. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to curse in this episode. Just slipped out of me on that one. But I do think that when you look at that as a trait, I think it's a positive that he tries to play hero ball. It's about reining it in and asking him to be a pocket passer and then a hero ball guy as a secondary thing. And that's actually what Cam Ward is. He's a pocket passer. It's only when the actual pocket breaks down that he finds his way out of it, trying to make plays and trying to make things happen. So I do think that that's a positive in my perspective, in my opinion. I think he has all the arm talent in the world. He can throw off balance. He can throw all upper body. He doesn't need to lean into it. He's efficient. His mechanics are smooth and quick. Like, Daniel Jones takes freaking 20 years to get through his mechanics, and he pats the ball, winds up, throws. By the time you get the balls out, the receiver's already past the route half the time. So I do think that we'll see a much bigger difference in terms of talent with Cam Ward. Now, other quarterbacks that had great weeks, as you mentioned, Jalen Milroe, 4 touchdowns. You mentioned he's not a polished passer. He's an Alabama product. Like, you have to take Alabama quarterbacks with a grain of salt. They oftentimes have a tough time transitioning to the NFL. If you're a team like the Ravens, who are a run-first team, Milroe might be a great option for you. Obviously, they have Lamar, so you're not going to do that. But I'm saying, like, a team that really predicates itself on running the football effectively, has a really great running game. He might be a player that would seamlessly transition into an offense like that. That is a specific type of offense, though. The Eagles run an offense like that, and they still have a great passing game. The Ravens run an offense like that. Not many others do. The Giants are not going to run an offense like that. That's not Brian Dable's MO. He wants to be explosive. He wants to be a downfield-centric offense. He wants to take shots. He wants to be all over the place and just really, really aggressive. Jalen Milroe is a specific type of quarterback. Don't think he fits the mold perfectly of what Brian Dable wants to do. However, maybe he grows as a passer. The thing is, the Giants need someone to come in and start pretty fast. Like, they don't need a guy that's going to be sitting on the bench for a year. Like, they need someone to save Joe Shane and Brian Dable's job now, if that's the route that they go. There's only one or two guys that are ready to start, if not even. I think Cam Ward still needs a couple games to sit and learn and prepare for that reality. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is ready to start immediately. And that's what the Giants are going to be forcing themselves to do. Walk into a season with a guy that is probably going to start within the first 6 or 7 weeks of the regular season starting. And that is a huge risk. It's a huge gamble. So, Anthony, looking at the quarterbacks that you would see like being the most likely to save Joe Shane and Brian Dable's job, because that's really what we're talking about here. What do you think is the best option for them? Like, who do you think would maybe not be the right fit?
I mean, if we're talking about saving Brian Dable's job, I've said this before, experience is what's going to do that for you, and Cam Ward has plenty of experience. He was a starter for Washington State for 2 years, and he's been the starter for this full season for Miami. So you're talking about 3 seasons as a starting quarterback. That is what's going to translate to immediate success in 2025. If the Giants want a quarterback who can start right away and win games for them next season, I think it's going to be Cam Ward. All the points that you mentioned, he's young, he's mobile enough, he's got a strong arm, he makes plays in the pocket, can scramble when he needs to, and extend plays with his legs, but he really is a pocket passer first and foremost. All those things are true, and I mean, what he's done this year for Miami has just been terrific. Like, he has been unbelievably good this season. And when you're looking at some of these other quarterbacks like Jalen Milroe, he's got 2 seasons as a starter, not 3. That extra 3rd season makes a big difference. I believe Shedeur Sanders is in his 3rd season as a starter as well, so you could argue that that could be a benefit for him. But no, actually, I'm sorry, I take that back. He's only in his 2nd season as a starter at Colorado. So when you're looking at that one trait alone, experience, that's what makes you find immediate impact in the NFL as a quarterback. Jaden Daniels had a well of experience. Arizona State, then LSU, eventually becomes the Heisman Trophy winner. Why has he stepped into the NFL and had immediate success? Because he's played a lot of football. A lot of these quarterbacks that come out of the NFL draft have not played that much football. They just purely have not played a lot. But Cam Ward has played a lot of football, and that's why I'm banking on him. If the Giants were to draft a quarterback in this year's draft that they wanted to start immediately, it would have to be Cam Ward, because any of the other guys who've started multiple seasons, obviously, like I said, Shedeur is in his 2nd season as a starter, so that's a decent amount of experience, but again, doesn't really compare to that extra 3rd season under your belt. And then we're talking about a guy like Quinn Ewers has 3 seasons as a starter, but Quinn Ewers isn't that good. He's a starter for Texas, but is he a good starting quarterback for Texas? Not necessarily. Carson Beck is in his 3rd season as a starter as well. Carson Beck also not very good. So the guys who have experience and are good in this draft class are few and far between. Drew Loar in his 2nd season as a starter. So again, another guy that you're probably not banking on having an immediate impact in the NFL. Then Jackson Dart would be the 3rd guy that you would look at, who has 3 years as a starter. But again, a lot of struggles this season for Jackson Dart playing at Ole Miss. Obviously, they had a clutch win this past weekend at LSU, but again, not a ton of upside, or not. Maybe not. That's not the word. They have a ton of upside, but not a ton of base level talent to work off of plus experience, and that's what Cam Ward has. The immediate impact experience. And you know what's another thing that we don't talk about enough, Alex, with these quarterbacks who do find experience? Like Carson Beck is now in his 3rd season as a starter, for example. But this 3rd season, things are falling off the rails. Like, he's not good as he was the first 2 years. So instead of progression, we're seeing regression. What's also a trend for Quinn Ewers in his 3rd season as a starter? Regression, not progression. What are we seeing with Cam Ward in his 3rd season as a starter? Major progression. What did we see from Jaden Daniels in his 3rd season as a starter? Major progression. So when these guys have experience and they get better year to year through that experience, those are the guys who end up entering the NFL and finding success, which again is the point that I'm going to make all year long with Cam Ward. He's gotten better every single year that he's been on the field, and he has a lot of experience to go along with his talent and his progression. That's why I think if you're going to save Brian Dable's job, if you're going to save Joe Shane's job, you're going to have to draft Cam Ward to hope that he has that immediate impact success, utilizing all of the different experience that he's had in his career and finding ways to win as a rookie. Now, if you want to look more long term and you want to talk about future upside, yeah, somebody like Jalen Milroe is really exciting. He is such an elite athlete. He can run all over the place, and you could build an entire offense from scratch around Jalen Milroe. That's an exciting proposition for a coach, for an offensive coordinator, or a head coach. And of course, Shedeur Sanders is similar. He's young. He's got a lot of potential. The Hall of Fame bloodline, all of those things true. He's got a strong arm. He can make any throw. All of those things are true. But again, if you're talking about trying to win immediately in that quarterback's rookie season, I think your only legitimate option at doing that would be Cam Ward, and that's not to say that he's guaranteed to find success as a rookie. You might draft him and he might crash and burn, but that's why the point that I need to make here, the Giants, whichever quarterback they draft in the first round next year, because they inevitably will, you can't be married to him for 3 years. Now, I know that's a little bit of an unpopular opinion. Usually when you draft a quarterback, you want to give them 3 years to see if they're going to develop. I don't know if the Giants can wait that long. The Giants need to start winning games immediately. If Brian Dable is still here in 2025 coaching this quarterback, him and that quarterback better pick up some wins. Otherwise, you're going to have to reboot the head coaching position again. And if you do that, you probably need to reboot quarterback once again to avoid going through the Daniel Jones cycle, meaning drafting him in 2019 with one head coach, giving him a new head coach in 2020, giving him a new head coach in 2022. Quarterbacks that go through that many coaching changes never have a legitimate chance of winning. So if you are going to give Brian Dable this opportunity to coach a rookie quarterback, you only have to give him 1 year, and then if you reboot one of those things, the quarterback or the head coach, you got to reboot both of those things. But again, if you're looking for immediate success from a rookie quarterback, Alex, I don't think you can look any further. I think it starts and it ends with Cam Ward. Any of those other guys, there's a lot of risk. Yeah, there's upside. I'm not saying that any of those guys can't be an immediate impact starter, but the odds of that happening with a lack of experience for some of these other guys, very low. The only quarterback that I feel confident could immediately step in and make an instant impact, that doesn't need to sit and learn and grow, probably is Cam Ward due to his experience.
Yeah, I mean, he is the best option for the Giants in terms of immediate production, immediate success, or at least the probability of it. We can't guarantee anything, but I mean, a couple other performances that look good. I mean, Jackson Dart had a good game. Obviously, they took down Georgia. Pretty big game from him. Quinn Ewers had, 5 touchdown passes, but I'm not a big Ewers fan myself. I think he has a lot of problems in his game. Look, this draft class, it's a big hit or miss. I think there's maybe 2 quarterbacks in this draft class that are worthy of first-round picks. And I think Cam Ward is one of them, and probably Shedeur Sanders. But I don't love Sanders. I mean, he was seen talking trash to a ball boy. I mean, he was in a ball boy's face. I mean, what's going to happen when he's in New York and people are booing him? The whole stadium, 80,000 people's booing him. What's going to happen? Is he going to freak out and yell at people and yell at the media? You have guys like Pat Leonard who have no restraint in terms of asking the hard-hitting questions. How is he going to respond to these questions when his dad's not there protecting him? You know what I mean? This is a legitimate concern. I'm not saying that he's going to be a bad character, but I am questioning when the fire's on, when the fuel is lit, when they're dumping lighter fluid and gasoline on the fire, is he going to be able to sit there with a straight face and not say something that's going to incriminate him, to the media and the fans? Is that something that you are concerned about? I'm asking you as a fans in the YouTube comments, are you concerned about Shedeur's character and, him not being able to handle the most hostile media market in the sport? You know what I mean? This is, you come here and you play bad, or you're can't handle your emotions at times. It ends up plastered on the first page of the New York Post the next day. You know what I mean? This is what happens in New York. So, do you think he can handle that type of pressure? On top of that, do you think he's even a good player? I don't think he's mobile. I think that he's slow to get through his progression sometimes. I don't think he runs an NFL-style offense particularly. I think that he has a lot of limitations to his game. I think he's a late first-round pick. That's where I think Shedeur Sanders lands. I think that in a regular draft with an average quarterback class, Cam Ward's probably he's 10th overall pick. Not the number 1, but probably the 10th overall pick. That's probably where guys like him land in last year's draft class. So you ask yourself, are you taking a player because you desperately need one, or are you taking a player where they actually should be drafted? Now, Cam Ward will be the first overall pick if the Giants are there because they don't have to trade up and move up to get him, and it'll be the easy decision. But I'm not taking Shadur Sanders number one. I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's that ready to be an NFL player. I think he needs time. That's just my personal opinion, though. Like, I could be wrong. Many people will disagree on me with that, but I watched him play. I just don't think he has that dog. You know what I mean? Like, Cam Ward down multiple scores, he's going to march back and help you win that football game. Sanders, I don't know if he has that in him. I don't know if he has that fourth quarter capability in him. And, I just think Ward, like, when the going gets tough, he fights. And last week, it sucked. He fumbled. He was running around trying to play hero ball, trying to make something happen for his offense. Offensive line's not very good. Their defense is horrible in Miami. Dude is carrying that team on his shoulders. You know what I mean? Like, the whole team is being carried on the shoulders of one guy. And it's Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo, who, by the way, I wouldn't hate taking a third-round pick on, give him a little bit of familiarity in that offense. I do like that combination. But, when all is said and done, one guy carries his team, and another guy has a lot of support. Like, Travis Hunter is another guy carrying that Colorado team, right? That Miami team is all Cam Ward. All Cam Ward. So I just think those two guys are in different realms personally. Do you think they're similar? I mean, personally, I think we're talking about 1 and like 5 to me. I don't think Sanders even close.
Listen, it's tough for me to tell and compare these two all the way in November when we got to get to April, because I'm not going to have a clear-cut determination on these guys until I see them play in the college football playoffs, if we see them play in the college football playoffs. Obviously, with the expanded format this year, it's going to be a larger pool of players that make it to the college football playoffs, so hopefully we get to see some of these guys. We get to see Cam Ward, and we get to see Shadur Sanders. I would like to see them go up against the best of the best competition and see who rises to the occasion and who doesn't. If Cam Ward goes into the college football playoffs and looks like the same player that he's been, throws 5 touchdowns and maybe 1 pick and leads Miami to a ridiculous win, I think we feel good about his chances to go up against NFL talent. If Shadur Sanders does the same thing, we'll feel the same way. Now, if Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders goes with those 3 picks in the college football playoffs and has no chance, or maybe they don't even have a chance of making the college football playoffs, it's very tough to evaluate them and give them first round grades or evaluations. It's just going to be difficult to evaluate. So we got to wait. That's how I feel about it. I would love to say, like, oh, this guy's going to be a top pick, and the only one that I do feel confident in, and this is because I did a lot of pre-draft work on him last year, is Cam Ward. Cam Ward initially declared for the 2024 NFL Draft from Washington State. Cam Ward looked like an NFL quarterback at Washington State. I thought that he, going into the draft last year was a bold decision. He'd probably become a mid-round pick and be a gem in the draft, compete somewhere to be a good backup, and maybe one day become a starter. He decided that's not the life he wanted. He transfers to Miami, gets the opportunity to be a starter once again, revitalizes that school's football program. They were terrible last year, and now he probably will lead them into the expanded college football playoff format, and he is well on his way to being a Heisman Trophy candidate and finalist. So that's the player that I've keyed in on, just because I've been keyed in on him since April. Like, I thought that he would have been an intriguing mid-round flyer for the Giants if they wanted to draft him in 2024. In fact, if Cam Ward did declare for the draft, Alex, and the Giants took him in the 4th round instead of Theo Johnson, he'd probably be starting for the Giants right now. Instead, he's maybe going to go into the college football playoffs with Miami. So, again, I already knew that he had NFL talent. Now I'm seeing him develop that NFL talent further, which is why I think he can only get better once he does get drafted by the NFL and goes to an NFL coaching staff and NFL talent around him. I think he will be even better in the pros than he is right now. But when you're looking at other guys like Sanders, like Milroe, we weren't really looking at them as NFL prospects last year. Now we're seeing if they can maybe become NFL prospects this year. So it's a little bit tougher to evaluate those guys and know for sure whether or not they're going to be comfortable first-round picks. Now again, quarterback is the most overdrafted position in the NFL. Every year you see second and third round prospects go in the first round of the quarterback position because you're desperate for one. And this year, a lot of teams are going to be desperate for one. You've got the Titans likely to go for a quarterback. The Jets will probably go for a quarterback this year. I mean, we could keep naming them off. The Vegas Raiders. There's so many teams that are going to need a quarterback. So if you're the New York Giants, if you're not taking Cam Ward, the guy that you think could be an instant impact player, you're going to have to settle for taking one of these high upside, high risk prospects. So even if you don't feel like Milroe or Sanders are worthy of an early first-round pick, Alex, you're going to have to overdraft and take one of them anyway. That's the ultimate reality of this. So now you just have to decide whose skill set fits best in your offensive scheme. And honestly, we can't even make that determination right now, Alex, because why? we don't know what the offensive scheme is going to look like, and we don't know who's going to be coaching it, right? We think Brian Dable is going to be the head coach, but we don't know that for sure. Like, we could say, man, Sanders has these traits that would be great in Brian Dable's offense. Well, what if Brian Dable's not running the offense? Man, Milroe might be really good on another offense, but doesn't fit with the New York Giants. Well, what if the New York Giants offense is completely different next year and they build it around Jalen Milroe? Then he might be an instant impact player. This is where my head starts spinning, because I'll look at all these quarterbacks and all of the talent that they have, the upside of this player, the downside of this player, and we just are in such a period of uncertainty right now for the New York Giants. We don't know who the coaches are going to be. We don't know what the GM is going to look like, the front office. We don't even know what the offensive line and the receiving core will look like. So it's very difficult to project. But that's why I always just default. And anytime we talk about quarterbacks, Alex, I fall back on my 2024 evaluation. I thought Cam Ward was a good quarterback this past year. He's only gotten better. So yeah, I absolutely think he is the right pick for the Giants if they're picking at the top of the draft. In my opinion, there's nothing that Shedeur Sanders does better than Cam Ward right now. And a lot of that has to do with experience. Perhaps if Shedeur Sanders had more experience, he might develop further. He might be a better player. It's totally possible that he gets to the NFL, gets the right coaching, long-term is a better player. Totally possible. But right now, if I'm Brian Dable and I need to save my job with one of these quarterbacks, if I'm even given the opportunity to coach and draft one of these quarterbacks, it's Cam Ward or bust for Brian Dable. I think that's the only way that he gets a comfortable pick, a comfortable selection on a player who has experience and upside.
Yep, I agree. And at the moment, we were talking before the podcast, there are a lot of teams that could be going through head coaching changes. So the Giants may stick it out with Brian Dable and Joe Schoen because it's familiar and the options are going to be slim. Mike Vrabel's going to get a job. Ben Johnson's going to get a job. But why would any of them want to come to the Giants where our roster is in shambles still? Well, we have a top pick in a weak draft class. It's not an attractive destination. So, with that being said, we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to keep looking at the college quarterbacks, seeing their performances right now. I'm impressed with Cam Ward. I know they lost to Georgia Tech and their defense. I mean, dude, you watch Colorado, their offensive line they have one of the best offensive tackles in the sport right now in college football. They have a strong offensive line. Sanders is standing back there for ages at times. You watch Cam Ward in that offensive line, they're rushing 3 passers and getting through them. Like, he is doing stuff. Like, if you're the Giants and you have a bad offensive line and you need a quarterback who can survive with a bad offensive line and make throws and be disciplined, Cam Ward is a perfect fit because he's already dealing with that right now, and he's succeeding despite it. He's succeeding despite the fact his defense is horrible. He's succeeding despite the fact he finds himself in deficits in the second half of games, if not in the fourth quarter. He's fought back and won multiple games in the fourth quarter this year. The last time the Giants have been able to do that, they had Eli Manning on an elite roster. You know what I mean? Like, this is... You're looking at a player that has the mental wherewithal to stand tall in adversity. You're looking at the player who can do the hero ball stuff, but if he does it more efficiently and they rein it in, there's nobody that we know aside from Brian Dable. He's the guy that helped Josh Allen rein it all in. Rein in that kind of hero ball type of mentality, and turned it into a more efficient passing game, turned it into a more efficient running game. Now Cam Ward is not the runner that Josh Allen is, to make that straight, but he's not incapable of running the football. He can do stuff with his legs if he needs to, but he doesn't want to. I think there's a difference between preferring to, and I think Cam Ward, what makes him enticing is that he wants to throw the ball. He keeps his eyes downfield, and that's why I like Cam Ward a lot in terms of that ability.
And I just want to say one thing on the ability to make plays with your leg. It's a little bit of an overrated ability to me. That's Daniel Jones' best ability, and he sucks. So how much stock am I going to put into the fact that this quarterback can run for 25 yards a pop? Not that much. Unless we're talking about Jalen Milroe, that's different. His rushing ability is an elite skill of his. Like, you can build an offense around that. You can't necessarily build an offense around many quarterbacks' rushing abilities. It's very few and far between. Like, we're talking Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, and who else? Maybe Jalen Milroe when he makes it to the league. But these other guys, I'm not putting a ton of stock into their rushing ability or their lack thereof, just because I don't think that it necessarily translates to wins. Like you just mentioned, Josh Allen runs when he needs to. He doesn't necessarily run all the time. He runs when he absolutely has to make a play. So does Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow isn't really a running quarterback. Justin Herbert can run a little bit, but isn't necessarily a rushing quarterback. Top quarterbacks in the NFL are pocket passers. Again, that's where we lead towards Cam Ward, because when he is in the pocket, he tries to stay in the pocket for as long as he can, extending plays within the pocket and then scanning downfield. But you know what? Shedeur Sanders does that as well. He just had a cleaner pocket to work with that Colorado offensive line that you mentioned is pretty exceptional. But Yeah, I do think that it's interesting to try and compare and contrast the rushing abilities of these quarterbacks, but I think that we do have to wonder how important is that ability when we're really breaking it down for a quarterback.
Whoops. It like cut out for a second. What'd you say?
I just talked about the rushing abilities and whether or not it's really important. Like, how
Oh, okay.
important is it to be a good rushing quarterback, basically?
Okay. No, I 100% agree with you in terms of you don't need to be a great rushing quarterback. You wouldn't call Patrick Mahomes a great rushing quarterback, and he manages to stay behind the line of scrimmage a lot of times and throw the ball downfield. He does it when he needs to, but I think that also helps eliminate injury at the same time. Like how many times have we seen players get hurt because they're running because they don't want to throw it? Just leaning on that. I think Jaden Daniels has reined it in really nicely as a rookie. He's not leaning on his legs as much. He's been able to stay in the pocket, use his mobility to keep his eyes downfield and buy time. Cam Ward has that pocket presence where he feels that pressure. He's able to spin away, avoid tackles. We saw Baker Mayfield, look how far he's come in his development in that regard, keeping his eyes downfield and giving himself an opportunity to throw the football. The Giants get Cam Ward, and this offense is going to look head and shoulders better. I think he would be better than Daniel Jones right freaking now. Like today, he'd be better than Daniel Jones. And that's not saying much because Daniel Jones is freaking terrible. So, I do think that if you get Cam Ward, he like Brian Dable, like if you keep Brian Dable, like that's the player you want for him. Like that's the exact player that you give Brian Dable to develop and become great. He is going to get the ball downfield. He is going, by the way, unbelievable screen pass thrower too. Like mechanics are so smooth, so quick. He's able to get the football out, and college football fields are wider. So like you now have less ground to make up. And I think that, that arm talent, he's able to sling that ball, different arm angles, do all the sorts of modern quarterbacking you need in the NFL. This dude is just a ball of talent. He's just a ball of talent, and he's a moldable piece of talent. You get your paws on him, you mold that, and you get better. You improve upon that, and you compound on those days, those success. And look, even if the Giants are losing games, at the very least, you're being competitive in those games. I have no doubt the Giants are competitive even in those losing games because Cam Ward knows how to compete. 10 points down, I'm not scared because I know Cam Ward knows how to come back and win those games and make those throws and make those moments happen. Daniel Jones, put him in a deficit, there's basically a 0% chance you're winning a game. You know what I mean? Even to the Panthers, we're down 10 points. I had no doubt we were losing that game the whole time. No doubt. You know what I mean? Zero doubt. So, different mentality, different playmakers, different player. But like Cam Ward would help this team substantially. We have to luck into being able to draft him. I think they'll go all out for him one way or another. Even if the Giants aren't in position to draft him, assuming that there's a team there that is looking to trade out, I think the Giants will be all over it. I think they're going to be making their move. And if they bench Daniel Jones, hope to God we don't get another Tommy DeVito or Drew Lock string of wins because that would be catastrophic to our chances of landing the future of this franchise.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. I think there's a really good chance that Daniel Jones does get benched this week during the bye. I think we're going to be talking about that in maybe tomorrow's episode because Brian Dable definitely had an eye-opening quote after yesterday's game, kind of foreshadowing a potential change at quarterback. So we'll unpack that soon. And again, throughout the rest of the year, we're going to continue to do our due diligence. Today, we just want to have a discussion on the quarterbacks, who we prefer, just kind of give you guys our baseline opinions of these guys. Throughout the rest of the year, we'll do film breakdowns. We'll talk about each one individually. We'll take a really close look at all of these guys and launch the search for the next franchise quarterback of the New York Giants. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually very excited for that. Again, it's only November. It sucks that we have to do this now. The season should still be alive for the Giants, but the unfortunate reality is they're 2-8 and the season is, in fact, over. They're very close to being mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. It's unbelievable that we're at that point, but in the month of November, that's when the mathematics start to kick in, and the Giants are going to be eliminated sooner rather than later. So now's the time to look at these quarterbacks. And like I said, the content that we have planned for the quarterback class is going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned and make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Leave us 5 stars on Apple or Spotify if you're listening there. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.